Happy fight day, everyone. Welcome to the Awesemo MMA Live Before Lock show. I told you on Thursday I wouldn't be here. Well, I am here today to get you ready for tonight's UFC Vegas number 44, Jose Aldo, Rob Font main event. Of course, we have gone through some changes. Yesterday, Jared Vanderaa pulled from the fight card due to medical reasons, non-COVID related. The commission pulling that fight. And then earlier on today, we found out that the Jeremiah Wells-Jake Matthews fight is no longer on this fight card due to one of the cornermen for Jeremiah Wells testing positive for COVID. So we've got a ton to break down. Of course, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. It's all about Prize Picks later on in the show. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Good afternoon, Pete. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? Happy to have you. Happy to have you back here for some Live Before Lock. Excited to see where some of our audience has some questions in regards to this card. But all in all, man, it's a nice card to watch. It's going to be a very, very difficult card. I think for like single entry type of players, it's more GPP suited in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, no question. I mean, I'm going to get to some Chris Curtis today. I was going to get to some Jeremiah Wells today as well, but of course, that's not going to happen. But I want to lead off with a great question we got in Discord a little earlier on today. And it said, who are the fighters who have to have a lot of control time, who may have a lot of control time potential so I can boost them in Fantasy Cruncher?
I think it's a fantastic question, to be honest. So if we want to go from just the top of the fight order, from main event backwards, I'd probably say the first person that I could possibly see getting some control time would be Jimmy Crute, right? Like Jimmy Crute could end up on top of Jamal Hill, who definitely shows that his Achilles heel is his grappling. I'm sure that he's made some strides in the gym and some improvements, but that's definitely some potential there for Jimmy Crute. And I think that's his best path to victory in that fight is don't strike with Jamal Hill. Make this an MMA fight, get on top, really test his grappling. And you've submitted some exceptional fighters in the past, and I don't really see why you couldn't replicate that going forward. Obviously a heavy wrestler in Clay Guida, if he can chain together some takedowns, stay out of some submission threats, he's always live to get a ton of control time, but I really just don't trust him to stay out of submissions too much. Outside of that, right, it's interesting because it all depends on if certain fighters really go to that well. One more fighter that I could possibly point to would be a William Knight at 7,500. If he stays on the outside with Alonzo Meadowfield, the way that he really leans back and keeps his chin up in the air, I think he's a sucker for a right hand all day long. And that could be obviously very bad for him. And I think that he needs to really test the cardio of Meadowfield and also his wrestling defense. So if big William Knight gets on top of Meadowfield, you could be looking at a disaster and en route to an excellent performance for us. So those are like three fighters that I think could really be tailored to answer that question.
Let me throw a odd name out to you that we talked about this on Thursday, Jose Aldo. I feel like one of his keys to victory is using pressure, getting Rob on his back foot. Even though I do like Rob to win the fight, you know, we always like to present two sides of the equation here. If Jose Aldo getting this fight to the ground, using his jiu-jitsu, Brennan Allen is another guy that sticks out to me as potentially going in that takedown route. I think that if you're Brennan Allen, we always talk about it, you know, what's the easiest path to victory? And to me, if I'm Brennan Allen, I'm not really trying to get into a brawl with Chris Curtis, because to me, that is where Chris Curtis' best chance to win the fight. So those are kind of two under the radar guys I would point to as potentially some control time.
Yeah, I like it. I definitely do like it. If Jose Aldo really implements takedowns, we've seen Rob Font get controlled at times and submitted in the past. And when Jose Aldo has your back or has you in a really bad position, he's a legitimate black belt. So I definitely think that that is a very, very dangerous, spot for Rob Font to be in. So I like what you're saying. I like the price point of both Rob Font and Jose Aldo a lot. And because of the pace of the fight and the volume, I feel like I might be okay with getting to that now that we have some fights canceled and getting to that in a lot of my lineups. This is a week where if you hate your lineup, you're probably, doing the correct thing and leaving salary on the table. I just see like an ugly optimal lineup happening that I probably won't land on unless I play a 150 max.
Yeah, no question about that. Of course, appreciate everyone that's in here on a Saturday, late afternoon for the live 4 lock. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Awesemo right here on YouTube, you got to do that. We got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. Of course, going up after us will be our NBA coverage to get you ready for tonight's NBA action, deeper dive. Then live 4 lock. And of course, if you're not an Awesemo Plus member, you want to get a peek of what's behind the paywall, today's free premium data and tools over at awesemo.com. NFL main slate ownership projections, NBA player rankings, and NHL player projections. Alex has updated ownership projections for tonight's UFC card. So if you are Awesemo Plus member, be sure to check out that. We'll talk about a promo we have for new Awesemo Plus members here in a little bit. Of course, be sure to line up any questions that you do have. Obviously, when we talk about the two fights that have gone off, they were punt plays that we were looking at. Jared Vanderaa, because he would have had a massive size advantage in that matchup. And then, of course, Jeremiah Wells, we talked about on Thursday how much we liked him. So that changes up. So, to me, and I know I saw a question a little bit earlier in chat, and it was about FanDuel, about those $10 under selections. When I look over on the FanDuel side of the equation, Chris Curtis to me is still, he's a guy that I don't mind getting to. After that, you mentioned about Mallory Martin. We talked about that quote that we read on the strategy show about Cheyenne. And of course, she pulled out a fight 2-3 weeks ago because she had COVID, and she's back in there. And just, you kind of question more of the question of like, hey, is she trying to get in there too fast after recovering from COVID? And especially, what's her lung capacity going to be like? Because you hear with people who have had tested positive for COVID, they say it does take some time.
Yeah, it definitely does take some time. And obviously a fighter in Cheyenne can go out there and get a first round finish. And that COVID and, the reaction to having COVID for a while might not even be a factor. But that's only if she finds a finish. If she's tested for 15 minutes, then that's really where you start to worry about the gas tank. So Mallory Martin is an underdog that I'm okay with getting to, but it's an ugly feel, right? Like at 7,200, we've seen the volatility with her. She has lapses on the ground with her submission defense. She has good takedowns and good ground and pound. It's just a matter of if she can really refine those skills and stay out of danger. It's not like Cheyenne Bays or Cheyenne Velismus is, like a Poliana Viana or Verna Janaroba's, grappling skill set. But, in women's MMA, arm bars from guard happen far too often. So if Mallory Martin just isn't paying attention and she's in top position, she could definitely fall into another arm bar. So just be very, very careful. I just don't trust what I've heard from Velismus. If you don't feel comfortable with that fight at all, just kind of move on altogether. There's other fights to get to. Just because it's a volatile matchup doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to have the best score. And some of these other matchups that I don't feel comfortable getting away from, but the way my salary and roster construction is, I'm forcing myself to get away from some of these matchups that, man, like a Jimmy Crute, Jamal Hill, it's like, I feel like the winner of that will be optimal, but at the same time, I don't want to be on the wrong end. So it depends on what type of player you are. If you're a risky player, by all means, roster one of those guys. And if you have a read on it and you think Jimmy Crute's going to land in top position, by all means, do that. If you say, okay, I'm going to let everybody else chase that in hopes that they are two competitive fighters and it's a well-matched fight, maybe they test each other for 15 minutes and nobody gets finished. And some of these other sneaky matchups make their way into the optimal lineup. So altogether, I'm just excited to see what the optimal lineup will be at the end of the night and see if any of us would have landed on it.
And it's something that we talked about on Thursday is that this is one of those cards where you could have a lot of money left on the table, even though Wells, Vanderaa off this one. Like, there's some fights that you did not mention that when I think about, probabilities of being optimal, how about the Patolo Dusko fight? Yeah. I think that's a fight that we have to look at as potentially an optimal type fight. Barberina and Weeks, look, there's not a ton of film on Weeks out there. I did an interview with him back in February. He is a boxer, but then, like we were talking about before the show, there's just concerns about Barberina just on his health.
Yeah, there are concerns about Barberena, and I'm obviously concerned about him taking damage. And from what I've also read, that he's like, yeah, I could incorporate wrestling. I know how to wrestle. I know how to grapple. I just choose not to do it. And I'm going to go out there and just strike because it's what I really love doing. And that really, plays right into the game of Darian Weeks, which kind of surprises me that this could all be smoke and mirrors and he could go out there and just grapple him immediately. But what I've seen from Barberena is he's content to throw hands and to test his opponent's chin and get into a war. And sometimes that's not going to work out for him, especially a guy in Darian Weeks who's a skilled boxer. Not sure if he's UFC level, but at this point, is Barberena UFC level? That's kind of like where they might be leveled out. Yes, Barberena has the UFC experience, but he's somewhat of a shell of himself. He could go out there and have a heck of a performance, but I just don't trust Barberena to withstand some damage of a talented striker in Darian Weeks. I'm okay with getting to Darian Weeks at 7,800, and that's something on Thursday that I was nervous about because I wanted to see how the weigh-ins looked. I thought Darian Weeks looked strong, and I thought Barberena looked old, and I thought he looked soft. Now that doesn't always translate to results in the cage, but I'll tell you what, Darian Weeks for me went up on my priority list, and at 7,800, I have no problem getting to him.
One of the comments I'm already seeing in chat is basically about, how much people are on Rob Font in this one and kind of explain of why people are going to be on Rob Font this one. I would put in one word: volume. You see the volume that he has there, has a tremendous jab. We've both seen Rob Font fight many times. And the first thing I think of when I hear about Rob Font fight, I think about the jab. So like to me, the reason I would want to get to Font to me is about the volume that he has there. Where is Jose Aldo at this point in his career? I mean, look, he's still one of the best fighters in the UFC 135-pound division. But, look, we saw what, when he takes on the elite of this division, like to me, and for Rob Font, while it's not come out and been said this, he's essentially fighting for a UFC title shot tonight.
Yeah, 100%. Rob Font is the ultimate dark horse for this division, and he's kind of glossed over and overlooked often because it's not that he does anything absolutely incredible and he's like some tricky fighter. He's basic, but his basics are like crafted in such an excellent manner where his jab, his good fundamentals, and that's what's really led him to the dance and got him some success in the UFC, is just being so refined with his fundamentals, where a lot of people, they start throwing tricky kicks or unorthodox techniques. And when you go back and you put the time into really just working on your jab, setting all your combinations up, once you start to find your range and establishing your range, next thing you know, your volume starts to come and your combinations start to land. And that's really what's making me lean in Rob Font's direction. I think that he can take some damage. As long as this fight stays on the feet, I have pretty good confidence in him, because I think a lot of people banking on Jose Aldo to go back to the kicking well or go back to the leg kicking well. I think those days are long gone. Yeah, he will do it every now and then, but he's not going to go out there and just blast, leg kicks or calf kicks. He should, in a matchup like this against a heavy boxing oriented fighter in Rob Font, he's going to be a little bit heavier on his lead leg. You should take advantage of that, but I don't think that's going to happen in this fight. And that's why I think Rob Font can, get some momentum behind him and really start to build on these combinations. And I think the volume is going to be the difference maker here.
And look, I don't mind getting to Jose Aldo.
No, not at all.
To me, if Aldo is going to win this fight, to me, it's about he is being the pressure fighter. He just can't sit back and wait for Rob Font. He's got to be the one engaging, get Rob on his back foot, and I think at least threaten with the grappling to try to get the fight to the ground. Rob has shown the ability to get up, but to me, when we're talking about, your path to victory, that's the way I look at. Question we have is best 9,000 and up fighter. This is an interesting one because we've got some high price 9,000 options. I mentioned about Brandon Allen a little earlier. He's the most expensive fighter at 9,600. You got Alex Morono at 9,500. Manel Kape, he's at 9,400. You got Cheyenne at 9,000. And Jimmy Crute at 9,200. I feel like you got to prioritize Crute and Hill. If Jimmy Crute makes it, like you said earlier, if he makes this a MMA fight, he does not make this a kickboxing fight, I have a good amount of confidence in Jimmy Crute, but there is a lot of volatility to that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely correct on that. If I'm looking at the 9,000 options, you got Brendan Allen at 9,600, Morono 95, Manel Kape 94, Crute 92. Velismus, you can just automatically cross out for me. If you want to go that route, by all means, go ahead. I just think that her last finish was a little fluky, catching somebody on their way up, when they're trying to stand back to their feet and catching them with a head kick. is not going to happen all the time. Her volume is usually good. Her combinations are good. I don't think that she's a bad fighter by any means. I think that she actually has some promise within this division, but that 135 is like a glaring recency bias that I'm okay with getting away from. It comes down to Crute, Kape, Morono, and Allen. I would say Crute has the most difficult matchup of them. So he's probably last on the pecking order, but has some extreme upside given his grappling skill set. Kape, I think, is the easiest one to get a victory here against Zhumagulov. I have a parlay with Manel Kape and actually Alex Morono and some other fighters. But I like Alex Morono a lot here against Mickey Gall, who seems extremely one-dimensional in the grappling realm, susceptible to getting cracked with shots on the feet. And I feel like a step up in competition against Alex Morono is a very, very tough test. And Morono can threaten him anywhere. He's a talented striker. He's a talented grappler. I do worry about Mickey Gall getting behind and taking his back, but I think Morono's skilled enough and violent enough to pull off an excellent performance. Brendan Allen's in a difficult matchup too at 9,600. So despite the wrestling acumen, I will say that Morono, Kape, Allen, Crute, if I had to do it as far as confidence rankings. But I think that Crute has easily the highest ceiling of them all.
Yeah, especially the takedown potential, control time. That's where, we're talking about GPPs. Next question we had was about the best picks 7,400 and under.
Okay.
And is it look, in terms of GPPs, if Jamal Hill cashes, man, he's going to be optimal. But, we talked about the concerns we have about Cheyenne based on those comments. Mallory Martin, I think, is someone to look at there at 7,200, but there's not a ton under 7,400 that you're just like, all right, I feel really good about this fight.
Yeah, it's Jamal Hill in that range, right? Like, ignore what could happen and just view it as upside. Jamal Hill has the most upside of everybody there. Clay Guida has the best some of the best box score out of everybody there. And in a matchup, it's two older veterans, facing off against each other. I just don't trust them there. Mallory Martin, I just don't trust women's MMA, especially low-level women's MMA. The high end with Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes, all that stuff, that's completely different. But entry-level women's MMA in the UFC is extremely volatile. Jamal Hill's number one on the list. Dare I say Chris Curtis again, right? Like, I don't hate Chris Curtis, but he's so talented. And 6,600 is absolutely disrespectful. That fight should be a lot closer, as in the odds, and definitely for the salaries.
Yeah, I mean, I remember earlier this week when I saw the betting odds for that fight, I was like, man, that's really high. I mean, I know Brandon Allen's coming off a great performance, but I was like, man, he should not be that big of a favorite against a veteran in Chris Curtis. Question that came up in chat, and it's the same dilemma I kind of came up with, is like, who is the best captain on FanDuel? Like, look, Rob Font, if this thing goes 5 rounds and he puts up the type of volume that he put up against Cody Garbrandt, he's someone that sticks out to me. Other ones that stick out to me in terms of FanDuel MVP, Alex Morono is one that really sticks out to me just because I'm just down on Mickey Gall. I mean, that's about the best way I can put it. Leonardo Santos could be an interesting one because, and we talked about this on Thursday, Clay Guida leaves his neck open when he goes for takedowns, and that's where I think the potential stoppage could come.
Yeah, I'm either thinking a guillotine or a triangle off of his back, because Clay's good enough to deal with guillotines, you would imagine, out of Team Alpha Male, right? Like, everybody's guillotine city out there. They have all the tricks of getting out of guillotines and putting people in them. I think that, just the time over there will allow him to get out of some of this, but being a little too content on top could get you, with overzealous ground and pound leading to an arm bar or a triangle. I think that in order to get rid of Clay Guida, it's definitely going to be something to put him out. Yeah, it's interesting. Alex Morono really sticks out to me, and I think it's like a Mickey Gall fade. Like, Mickey Gall looked good against Jordan, but it's a matter of just capitalizing on an entry and getting behind somebody. If anybody in the UFC gets behind somebody and takes somebody's back, they are all live to pull off the upset. Or, even like in low-level women's MMA, like, you're talking about super advantageous positions. You need to avoid getting in those spots, right? It's just a matter of avoiding that. But I think that Alex Morono really, really sticks out to me as far as a FanDuel MVP. Man, you know who keeps finding himself in submissions all the time, despite looking good and despite having all the skills? Maki Pitolo gets caught in subs all the time, and he will look good with good combinations. He hits really well, but he goes to the takedown well so much to like solidify rounds or to somewhat stall. And then next thing you know, he's getting threatened and choked. So Dusko Todorovic is, I think, on my top 5 GPP lists of, I don't trust him at all. I hate his fighting style. But at 8,600, man, does he stick out to me? And definitely on FanDuel as well.
Well, his management has been tagging me on Facebook the past couple of days. Oh,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Just so that they're excited for their guy. Let's just say that. They're excited for their guy. Of course, when you get access to all the great free and tools and data we have over at Awesemo.com, you got to sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. You can get that for $29.95, gives you access to all the great data and tools we got over there, including ownership projections, player projections, and so much more. And if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus, you got to take advantage of the promo we got going on during this show. We use the promo code UFC live before lock. You get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And if you just want an Awesemo Plus weekly package, you can get that at $8.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Yeah, it's I get the notification on my phone anytime someone tags the podcast. And there's been a couple of tags this week tagging my show and a couple other shows out there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like, all right. Yeah. You expect a tweet when he gets a big win.
Look, this is why I always say in this industry, you never know who's watching.
You got to have tough skin too. You got to have tough skin. And it's tough to have tough skin, especially because I think like a lot of fighters are sensitive, and a lot of people just in general just don't like hearing the truth, the harsh truth. But it's a tough business.
Hey Pete, try doing a show where you make picks and then you got to interview fighters that you may pick against.
Don't
worry, it's come up. It's come up off air. It's come up.
Oh boy. Hey, I saw your video. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't.
And more times than not, it's more the managers will say something more than anything else.
Yeah, I expect the managers to really give you a difficult time. Hockey Freak Sean, thanks for your comment in chat. I appreciate everybody's comment in chat. He says Todorovic can't wrestle, so there's no sub there. That's not true. Todorovic is actually a high-level black belt, and his wrestling may not be the best, but that, Maki Pitolo entering in trying to attempt takedowns will actually force the hand of Dusko Todorovic's grappling. You don't always need to have wrestling and jiu-jitsu in certain fights. It's a matter of just capitalizing. And I do think that's a little difficult matchup for Maki Pitolo, but Todorovic in general is just difficult to trust.
CS, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, top 2 cheap boom bust GPP plays. Also,
oh boy.
He says, Jason, you say you're on Curtis. Why are you? I see him as a tough lower volume guy. Allen is a step up. Not sure he can KO him. Look, one thing about Chris Curtis is a slow starter. He talked about this, and Chris has been around this game for a long time. Like when you talk about outside the UFC, Chris Curtis, I remember this was probably, 6-8 months ago, I was talking to Chris, and he said, he goes, I will beat every prospect until they have no choice to sign me. This is a guy who retired in the PFL. They come to him and say, hey, guy just pulled out a fight. You want to get back in the tournament? He said they start taping him back up. This is the mentality of Chris Curtis. By the way, trains with Sean Strickland. I believe Sean Strickland will be in his corner tonight as his chief corner. Strickland has fought Allen. And we all know Sean Strickland will talk mad trash. Mad trash.
For sure. Chris Curtis is one of the most UFC ready fighters I've seen on the regional scene. And that's just the truth. Now he's in the UFC. He had his opportunity. He capitalized against a fighter in Phil Hawes, who has a questionable gas tank and a susceptibility getting hit with a big shot and rocked, and somehow survives. And ultimately, he's not going to be able to have that happen every time. And you had Chris Curtis capitalize and walk away victorious. Now, this is a very difficult fight against Brendan Allen. Could Curtis knock him out? By all means, because we have seen Brendan Allen get hit and hurt. We've also seen him get put in bad positions. But if you look at Brendan Allen, he's had a difficult road in the UFC. Like, he is absolutely battle tested. Soriano, Roberson, Strickland, Dawkins, Breeze, Holland, like that is some incredible competition. So I do think that this is a massive step up for Chris Curtis. He just does have that death touch. So to answer CS's question, cheap GPP dart throws that have good upside. It comes down to two, right? It's William Knight at 7,500 and Jamal Hill at 7,000. I kind of view them as like 1A, 1B as punt plays. I don't like either one of them. I just really like the matchups and how I can see those fights not going the distance more so than some other ones.
Chris Curtis is a boom bust play.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's certain fighters you look on this card, like I would say the one fight I found myself as I was hand building lineups that I just kept looking at, and I didn't know where I wanted to go was the co-main event of Brad Riddell and Rafael Fiziev. We talked about this on Thursday. It's one of these fights where you almost feel like that Rafael is going to be up 2-0 heading to the third, and Brad Riddell is going to have a really strong third round. It's a fight that you fully expect that this fight's going to stay on the feet. These guys have trained together in the past, so there's that element of the fight. But it's just one of those fights that I didn't want to get a ton to, just because I think it's a fight that is going to be on the feet and won't necessarily be the highest scoring fight because, you know, like we mentioned, I mean, obviously when we did the show on Thursday when we had 14, 15 fights, we were talking about, hey, we need 100 points in every fight. I just don't know if this has a formula for 100 points.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's an amazing fight, right? Like, I'll be at work tonight and I'll be trying to perform my duties while watching an excellent striking affair. And I wish we had some inside information from people who have watched their sparring, or some people that we know that like know both of these fighters well. Obviously they're not going to come out and say it if they're good friends or they're good people most of the time. So it's just interesting, right? And we talked about it on a Thursday of how it could be a mirror match, could be a little bit more calculated, could be like an I go, you go type of tie fight where in Thai boxing, it's not usually one-way traffic. It's like a sway of momentum. I throw a combination, I allow you to try to counter with the combination. And it's like a back and forth type of fight until one person really starts to come out on top. Rafael Fiziev, for me, is the fighter I predict to walk away victorious because he does have more power. I think he still can hurt Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell cuts a tremendous amount of weight. I thought that his eyes looked a little sunken in. I thought that he looked like he had a rough weight cut, but I know he struggles with his weight cuts every fight, and that has not really zapped his gas tank. But when you start taking body shots that I suspect Rafael Fiziev will target, I think that could change some things. I worry about Rafael Fiziev in round 3, though. With a strong Brad Riddell down 2 rounds, I need to find a finish. This could make its way into the optimal. It's just a very, very evenly matched contest that I'm okay with saying I believe is going to go the distance, and in hopes that really does happen.
Question from Andrew about thoughts on fading the main events that could easily be 100 significant strikes from each fighter and essentially without any takedowns and control time. I totally get that, but it's not like you're having to pay $9,000 for one of the fighters.
Yeah, exactly. It's the price point that really, I tried that same mentality when I was making lineups earlier. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get away from the main event. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, all these other fighters that I'm looking at, I don't really trust. And then I look at Rob Font and I'm checking him out and I'm like, all right, well, in a 3-round fight, right? A decision. How does Rob Font score in a decision? I'm like, okay, well, against Ricky Simone, had to defend takedowns and all that. He scored 73. Okay, tack on 2 more rounds to that. I still think at his price at 8,400, he's probably going to hit that 100-point threshold. Sergio Pettis. Okay. Yeah, he landed 2 takedowns and had some control time, but he scored 100 points in a 3-round decision. All right. In his most recent one against Cody Garbrandt, 5-round decision, had 2 takedowns, so he can incorporate that. 114 fantasy points. He doesn't need to get 100 points, but I think he needs to be in that 95-ish range, especially at his salary. It's doable. So it's more difficult to get away from this fight than I thought.
Mentioned a question we just got in Discord. Says Manel Kape, Alex Moreno, Brent Allen, or Santos compared to win percentage and upside. Thinks in advance. Can
Can you repeat the question? What is that?
It's Manel Kape,
Yeah,
Alex Morono, Brennan Allen, Leonardo Santos, compared to win percentage and upside. So I'm guessing what he's kind of laying that is, like, look, I'd probably rank that Morono, Kape, Allen, Santos. The only concern
I'm right there with you. I am right there with you on that. That's a perfect ranking, in my opinion.
I mean, look, the concern you have with Leonardo Santos is just, hey, he is a 40-year-old fighter. It's not like Clay Guida is much younger. By the way, did you see the clip the UFC put on their Facebook Reels this week?
No.
It was Clay Guida getting slapped in the face by his brother and burping, and then they did a slow motion as Jason Guida is smacking him, and there's a woman like in the back going,
yeah. I did see that. Yeah,
she's like, "What did my boyfriend bring me to?"
Yeah, imagine that was her first and last MMA event she ever attended. You definitely ruined that girl's MMA experience with that. Clay Guida is a character, right? Like, he's a really nice guy. He's fun to be around. His energy is amazing. His cardio is still good. So, like, yeah, he's old. His body looks old. They both look old. They both look like really, really old on the scale. But I would say that the pace and pressure of Guida gets to a lot of fighters, and you either meet that pace and pressure with a beautiful knee up the middle or some aggressive striking, or you let him run into something like a submission attempt or something. So I'm excited for the matchup, and Clay Guida will really bring out the dog in some people. You either see people have that dog in them to match Clay, or Clay just steamrolls them and breaks them. So Clay Guida is not off the table, in my opinion. Like, he's live. I don't trust Santos that much.
Of course, we are presented by Prize Picks. Of course, I'm going to tell you about Prize Picks here on MMA Live Before a Lock. They got their daily prop-based contest. Be sure to use that promo code Awesemo, as they'll match your first deposit up to $100. And of course, use our free player props tool to help you make the best decision. And there's another great advantage to the offer they got going on for our listeners. Get 1 free month of Also Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. You'll receive an email within 24 to 48 hours after to redeem your free month of Also Plus Platinum. And there was 2 props that stuck out to me in terms of this card, Pete. First off, fight time. Alonzo Menifield, 8.5. Give me the under. Give me the under.
I'm saying, give me more.
Really?
I think it's gonna be like a William Knight. I'm never a William Knight guy, but I think it's gonna be like a.
He's like from your backyard, bro.
I know, but that doesn't mean I gotta like somebody. I mean, I'm not hating on him. I don't know. I think that
maybe you should get in the bench press with him.
Yeah, right. I think he'll bench press me. Yeah, I know. I think that William Knight, I don't know. I say more on that. It doesn't scream like a first round finish to me.
Oh, it's a less for me.
Okay.
Takedowns. Brennan Allen, 1.5.
More?
Yeah, I'm a more on that one too.
What is that? Free money.
Yeah.
I mean, Curtis is good. Curtis is good, but it's just Brennan Allen's Brennan Allen. Brennan Allen's going to take you down.
I keep telling people, when you go to Prize Picks, because they even have Bellator up there too, when there's Bellator fights, I'm telling you, a lot of good player props over there. I'm just saying.
I'm so upset. My buddy, actually my barber, he went to his first MMA event last night at Bellator, and he's like, dude, it was such an amazing card. He got to see Sergio Pettis with that come from behind down 4-0 and amazing following that round kick with a spinning back fist. So he's hooked. And he's like, you let me know when you're fighting and all that. He hasn't seen me fight live yet. So I just think it's a cool night to experience as your first one.
So what you're saying is you can now get another person to sell tickets to.
Another person to sell tickets to.
No. CS with another one in the super chat. He says, what about Zalgas? He has better numbers than Kape versus worst competition. Has not been finished since 2015. Does he have a shot? If not, do you think he sees all 3 rounds or gets finished?
I tell you what, I think a lot of people still haven't seen the best of Manel Kape, and that is absolutely the truth. I think Manel Kape switches stances, throws combinations so crispy. I think he'll give fits to a lot of people, and for a division not really known for power, more so known for volume. I think that he is he's the rare breed where he has both power and speed. So Zhumagulov is a guy that's constantly let me down in the UFC. Yeah, he's coming off an excellent performance, but a quick submission victory over, I believe it was Jerome Rivera, if I'm correct. Jerome Rivera. It doesn't really like show me a lot. Like, he's gone the distance with Julian Paiva, Amir Albazi. He's a guy he'll back himself against the cage and he'll counter, but he doesn't really lead the dance like he should. And I think that could be, a bad recipe against Manel Kape, who, it seems content to win a decision as well. I just think he's going to have more sting on his shots. And I think that he's just a better overall fighter, to be honest. I do.
By the way, Samuel, appreciate you in the super chat. By the way, happy birthday, Samuel. He mentioned that in the chat of the last show. He goes, I know you guys don't play the captain slate much, but what were your core plays for single entry? And he says also his over under for finishes is 7.5. Oh, give me the over. Give me the over.
What do we got? 13?
13, yeah.
I'm saying under. We got 7 finishes.
In terms of the captain slate, as I look at what we have over there, and actually I do play the captain slate. Usually I have one or two lineups over there. When I'm looking at the captain, I mean, if you think Rob Font's going to win and he's going to put the type of volume that he put up against Cody Garbrandt, I think it's really hard to not look at him as a captain. But obviously you want to try to get a little bit different there. Maybe Maki Patolo at 6,200 is someone that does stick out to me too. Not as a captain, but just as in your fighter slot.
I mean, I really like Alex Morono, just because I think of all the fights, right? Gall, Morono, Todorovic, Patolo. He looks like he has the easiest matchup out of everybody on this captain slate. Doesn't mean that he's going to go in there and smash, but he has the path to do so more so than some of these other fighters. So I'll say Alex Morono. I know he's expensive. He's the second most expensive fighter out there. Brendan Allen's the first. So you got to put 14,400 for Alex Morono in the captain spot. And that leaves you 7,100 essentially for the rest of your lineup. So I kind of do like that. I don't hate that idea.
Next up, let's see here. Brad says Dusko, Gritzmacher, or Smolka.
Yikes.
I would rank it Gritzmacher, Smolka, Dusko.
I am not on Gritzmacher this week. And
really?
I'm not. And it could work out badly for me, but I actually think that Claudio Puelles is pretty good. I think that his grappling's pretty good. I know that Gritzmacher's a dog. He's going to get taken down. He's going to get ragdolled. I would imagine he'll get back to his feet, which is good for us DFS players, because that means it's more points for Claudio Puelles. This is a terrible salary range that I always struggle with, admittedly, but Puelles at 8,000 is a guy that I'm okay with getting to, especially training out of Sanford MMA. You guys know I have a lot of bias. Puelles talked about in an interview that, coming off a back-to-back decision wins, he's going to look to really pursue the finish. So take that. You're an MMA journalist. You hear guys talk about all the time. They're going to get a finish. They're going to get a finish. It doesn't materialize, but I do like a fighter that says that they're going to be a little bit more aggressive in a fight.
It's very rare. Fire coach. Yeah, I'm going to win by decision. It's very rare.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Now, there are some fighters who say, look, they'll say, I don't think I'm going to get this guy out quickly. It might take me 14 plus minutes to get him out. Next up, Clement says, what do you think of the 9K plus fighters? Any heavy fade / leans? To me, a fade is Cheyenne.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I can't trust her, right? I just can't trust her. If she ends up doing well at 9,000, okay. I don't see her replicating 135 points. That's not going to happen. I'm okay with getting away from that. A fade on the bot, like Zhumagulov is definitely live to win a decision. But even in the decision, right? Let's add 30 to each of these. 69, 62 would be his decision wins if you want to add 30 points to it, because it's going to be a difficult fight against Manel Kape, right? Like, I'm okay with saying Mickey Gall and Zhumagulov would be more so what you classify fades. But in MMA DFS, we know how volatile this is. And, that's why if your lineups start off bad, reserve for some contests in that captain slot to try to redeem yourself.
Brad asked about the first fight of the night. I mean, look, if I'm Louis Smolka, you got to incorporate leg kicks. I know it's not necessarily a big part of his game, but after you saw, I mean, and obviously Chris Gutierrez is a leg kicker. That's what Chris Gutierrez does. But like, to me, that's the first thing, that Team Oyama team is going to look at and go, we got to attack this leg.
It's so annoying, right? Like, it happened once. So you're going to have Vince Morales like have this over his head, this cloud of,
totally.
He's able to get leg kicked for the rest of eternity. And I get that because there's fight footage on it and everybody's going to try to do it to him. It's annoying, especially like if you get caught in a submission, everybody thinks that you stink at jiu-jitsu. You're going to constantly evolve and improve. And if you don't, then you shouldn't be in the game. But Louis Smolka is really interesting to me. I know that this is probably going to be a competitive fight. We have seen him absolutely destroy some competition against Ben Nguyen. He scored 3 takedowns. Had some massive control in that fight, ended up scoring 157 points with a second round TKO. So there's potential of Louis Smolka of getting in good grappling position, incorporating ground and pound strikes, looking for the submission finish. Vince Morales is really a striker, heavy on his lead leg, as you mentioned. But this is a fight that I'll say probably more often than not does not make it into the optimal lineup. Mm-hmm. But if it does, I would probably think that it's, because of Louis Smolka.
Last spot in, Claudio Puelles or Jose Aldo in DraftKings.
That's hard, man. That's really hard. It depends on. Only reason I'll say this is because of 5 rounds. I'll say Jose Aldo, even though I still think that Rob Font wins.
By the way, Nicholas, yes, that was Pete's dad working on the Bellator show last night.
Yeah. So, it's cool. Sometimes he gets the call. Yeah, and we appreciate everybody in here, man. We got 300 people in here. We only got 65 likes. We could get to like 120 likes. It just really goes a big way for us and shows that you guys appreciate us. We appreciate you guys tuning in all the time. Happy to have Jason here for a live before lock. Finally, yeah, man, I'm excited.
You got me the rest of the year. I'm home the next 2 weeks after this week, so you got me the rest of the year.
Okay, good.
By the way, the fights are on ESPN tonight. I know a lot of people have been asking how to watch the fights. They are on ESPN. They're also on ESPN Plus, so you can watch them in multiple ways.
You got me nervous, man. I'm like, dude, I don't have a TV at work. I'm gonna need like it on my phone. As long as I can watch it on my app, I'll be good.
Yeah. Riddell or Patolo? In a GPP, I'd rather go Patolo. Cash. Maybe Riddell.
I'm going to say Riddell.
Let's see here. Here's a question or a comment about Mickey Gall, saying Gall is so content with being on his back. Mm-hmm. He can either go for a takedown and be on his butt.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, if Mickey Gall does not really take center of the cage and put Alex Morono on his back foot, he's going to get outworked. And I think that the volume and the aggression can really make you pause and make you like second guess, like, oh man, like this is a next level. So I don't know. Mickey Gall's done some unthinkable things sometimes, but if you really look at strength of schedule and compare Mickey Gall's resume to Alex Morono's resume, it looks like a complete mismatch.
Font or Santos? I'd rather go the Font route.
Yeah, agreed. Rob Font, such a crazy fight for New England. Rob Font taking on one of the most legendary fighters ever. He's such a stud.
And I was thinking about this earlier today. Rob Font is, we always talk about going to the big gym and mm-hmm. being around all these training partners. But the New England Cartel is a different story. It is a core of guys that, it's a very small team, of course, run by Tyson Chartier, one of the most, he's gotten a lot of respect over the last year or so, but has been an underrated coach for some time now.
Yeah.
But it's, literally I think it's been about 5 of them that have been in Vegas the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. So, it's pretty similar to like me and my group of friends. Like it's me, Nate Andrews, Greg Rebelli, he's our coach, and you think about just everybody, like Louis Felix and Marquise Brewster, like all these guys, like we get together, and that's what New England is, like cross training like crazy and finding a group of friends that you can trust and grow with. And just so happens that these guys got the UFC call, took advantage of it, and have been just absolutely dominating. And Rob Font is, outside of Glover Teixeira, is probably the best regional fighter to make it into the UFC with the most success so far.
Yeah, and kind of the story, obviously him and Calvin Cade are best friends, main training partners. The regional scene, they were literally on a collision course to fight each other. Tyson Charday steps in and says, fellas, why are we going to fight each other? Let's make each other better and
for
not
regional, for regional money. Out. Yeah, for regional money. Like, it makes no sense, Jason. You know this. It's like, that's what it's, they pair the best against the best in New England. And it's like, all right, well, now you just derailed some excellent, progress that you were making on the regional scene and fighting for regional pay. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's great to have that fight on your resume, but I've always said this, don't take a UFC level fight on the regional scene for regional pay, because I think people don't understand. If you are not a massive ticket seller, it is very tough to make money on the regional scene.
100%. And, Kevin Lee actually came out with an interview. Did you happen to read it? And he was talking about how don't take the tough fights, cherry pick your opponents. You're going to get further, and don't do the correct. Like, actually, you and I talked about this, didn't we? And it's like, don't do the correct thing for the company. Do what's best for your career. And I tell you what, man, he's probably right.
He's right, but it's also very interesting that Scott Coker basically said, we're essentially Scott Coker saying we're not interested at this point, which to me tells me that CAA, who represents Kevin Lee, probably has reached out to Bellator, probably put a price point out there, and Bellator's like, we don't want to pay that price.
Negotiating. That's all it is. Exactly. Act, like you're not interested at all. And, come back 20% less and maybe we'll have a deal. Yeah, man, it's just MMA scene's crazy. You got to have the right people behind you. But yeah, with all that being said, Dan Jackson in chat says iron sharpens iron. That is correct. You want to train with some talented fighters. And that's why I think a Calvin Kattar in the training room can really not replicate Jose Aldo, because there's only one Jose Aldo, but can definitely help being a bigger body sparring partner.
Of course, one of the things that Pete and I love to see after the fights are over are those screenshots, those winning lineups. And you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, you need to be rocking that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. You can get that over awesemo.com/avatar. Placed in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants. Tweet your wins to @Awesemo HOF. You'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Only one free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. You always see those screenshots that we put up on the screen. You can see those screenshots there right now. And Pete and I would love to see those screenshots, all those great wins using the great tools and data we have over here at awesemo.com. So Mike will be going through those screenshots there for you. So of course, the big first thing with that is you got to be rocking that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. All you got to do is go to awesemo.com/avatar to get that over there. So congratulations to all the people that part of our community that are taking on these contests over on DraftKings and also over on FanDuel. We'll try to get we got about 5 or so minutes there left in the show. We'll try to get as many questions in as we can as possible. Let's see here. Is Knight versus Menifield part of the optimal lineup on DraftKings? I say yes.
I feel like it is. They're both, I said superhero against action figure, and somebody's gas tank is going to go. Somebody's going to get knocked out or finished somehow. So yeah, I'll say yes.
Favorite 2 underdogs.
I hate it. Favorite 2 underdogs. I'll go Weeks and Knight.
Best GPP play on DraftKings in the 8,000s.
Oof, GPP in the 8,000s. Best GPP in the 8,000s. God. Rob Font because of 5 rounds? That's a difficult question.
Yeah, I probably would lean Rob Font that one. More DraftKings, more GPP DraftKings points. Manel Kape or Alex Morono? Give me Morono.
Morono, yeah.
FanDuel cash Weeks and Hill or Todorovic and Curtis? Ooh,
first one.
Yeah, I'd probably lean that one. Favorite underdog of the night under 8K on DraftKings.
I mean, let's just say I don't like anybody on this card outside of Morono and Manel Kape. But for me, it's William Knight, even though I just don't trust him. But
yeah, it is tough to trust him. Better DraftKings captain, Crute or Font? It's an interesting one because Jimmy Crute could land on some points with some takedowns and control time.
Mm-hmm. Could.
But 5 rounds and the volume that Rob has, the ceiling is, I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That might be, I'm looking at ownership in terms of that one, decide where I want to go.
I would agree. I think that's interesting. I haven't looked at ownership for the captain contest, but definitely suggest you guys heading over to awesemo.com, checking it out, using some one of our promo codes, getting involved. And, that fantasy cruncher, that tool definitely helps for creating lineups.
Kevin goes, what kind of dough do you make on the regional scene? Best case scenario,
500 if you're lucky.
Yeah. And if you're a good ticket seller and you can negotiate a good commission on those ticket sales, that's where you can make money.
Yeah. Like most people are going to rip you off and offer you 10 to 15%. But if you have leverage and you know that you could sell X amount of tickets, we ain't even starting at 10 to 15. We starting at 20, and let's have a conversation and getting up towards 40.
Oh, I will tell you, I know a guy locally that he was known as a good ticket seller and he would get 50%.
Yeah.
Because the promoters knew how good of a ticket seller he was, that he was going to pack in the house.
Yeah. I've worked it before where I've had 40. So, you just got to use what works for you.
Yeah. Claudio Puelles or Darion Weeks?
I like both of them, truthfully. I think that Puelles we have more of a sample size of him, right? In the UFC, handling the octagon jitters, performing at the UFC level. I'll say him with his grappling upside, but I like Weeks, man. Despite making his UFC debut, if Barbarian is going to stand and strike, by all means, I like Weeks.
Yeah, I mean, today's one of those cards where I don't think there's a ton of guys that you're like, oh man, I'm extremely confident. Like if I sat there and said, who's your most confident player, I would say Alex Morono for me.
If somebody handed you $1,000, right, and you had to make a bet on somebody tonight,
do I got to make a bet on the winner, or can I take like a prop bet?
No prop bet, Jason. No, you gotta pick one fighter that you are gonna take that $1,000, and you're going to make some money off of it, even if regardless of the line, like if it's a minus 500, whatever, you just want to win. Who are you picking?
It comes down to two people for me.
It's Kape and Morono for me.
Correct. Yeah, no question.
Now, if you probably want to completely be different and contrarian, you go against that, because I don't think many people are going to have a Mickey Gall or Zhumagulov.
Yeah. And Kevin, by the way, a lot of regional fighters, they have a full-time job, maybe 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah, at least. And a lot of us just train fighters or train people to make ends meet.
Yeah. Work security.
do podcasts for Awesemo,
Look, I was just saying security in general. Like they have literally, if you polled every UFC fighter, I guarantee 80% of them have worked security.
It's a dangerous thing to do though, because you have to have a certain temperament. And I've been in charge of security. You don't want a lot of fighters dealing with situations because it's not sparring. You know what I mean? Like you get sued and all that stuff. So you can't have that.
Yeah. But of course, we got the fights will start here in 1 hour from now on ESPN and ESPN Plus. So you got some time to get your lineups coming in. Of course, coming up next, we got NBA Deeper Dive as guys will get you ready for tonight's NBA slate. Pete, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, good luck, everybody. I'm excited to see what the optimal lineup is. I'm excited to see if we can, weave in and out of these disasters of these volatile matchups that we know are incoming. And if you can just avoid the ugliness, possibly you come out, with some good profit. But all in all, I think this is a better live betting type of card. But thank you guys for tuning in to us. Jason and I really appreciate it. Happy that Jason was able to make it. You guys are the best.
And of course, so we'll be back on Thursday for the UFC 269 Strategy Show. And then, of course, we'll be back here next Saturday for Live Before Lock. So that's going to do it for us. Coming up next is NBA Deeper Dive. Hope everyone has a great Saturday night, and we will talk to you on Thursday on The Strategy Show.